Heartwarming tale. Single dad fixed farmer's truck and discovered her amazing secret, a millionaire. Jake wiped sweat from his brow, the grease-stained hands of a small-town mechanic revealing not just his livelihood, but the struggles that come with single fatherhood. His world revolved around his daughter Emma, who was as bright as the summer sun. Their days were filled with hardships, yet every laugh she shared and every smile she flashed kept the weight of their situation lighter. But today felt different. As he was closing up shop, a worn-out pickup rolled in, sputtering like a tired old man. The driver, a weary farmeress named Clara, wore her tiredness as if it were a badge. "Can you help me?" she asked, her voice tinged with desperation but underlined with a determination that intrigued him. Intrigued, Jake smiled and nodded. "I won't charge you a dime," he said, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within him. It was what small-town folks did, help each other out. While he tinkered under the hood, Clara shared her story with him, each word shaped by love and a burning desire to save her late grandfather's farm from foreclosure. "It's my whole world," she said, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "So many memories. I can't let it go." As she spoke, Jake felt an unexpected kinship stir in his chest. Here was a woman who fought against the whisperings of a narrow-minded community, a beacon of grit that reminded him of his own battles. The more they talked, the more Jake found himself drawn to her optimism. They spent hours sharing cups of coffee, laughter punctuating conversations about oil stains and life. "You're stronger than you realize," he said softly, admiring her unyielding spirit. Just then, he felt the first flicker of something more, a connection that transcended their struggles. Before they ended their day, Clara decided to take a leap of faith, planning to attend an agriculture meeting to rally support. Just as courage surged within her, an unexpected twist struck. Her grandfather's fortune was her inheritance. The revelation was a shock. Jake's heart sank, caught between joy for her new opportunity and a weighty concern that it would change everything. As news spread through town, opinions flew like arrows. "Just a rich girl." Some scoffed, while others heralded her windfall as a potential savior. Jake watched, torn. He had spent years teaching Emma the values of hard work and integrity. He didn't want Clara's true character to be lost in a whirlwind of gossip. "She's more than her money," he asserted, defending Clara against the town's unjust scrutiny. Just as Clara prepared for the biggest showdown in her fight to protect her farm, doubts crept in. Would they accept her as a leader, or just see her as wealthy? Jake stood resolute by her side, yet unease lingered in the air. Old rivalries reared their heads, threatening to sabotage Clara's dreams. As the stakes rose, Jake felt the bond between them tighten, an undeniable connection that felt as intricate as the gears he worked with every day. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The battle looming ahead demanded courage, and yet Jake couldn't ignore the growing feelings in his heart. He found himself caught between standing up for Clara and protecting Emma's heart from the fallout of a town set against them. With the clock ticking down to the showdown, Jake wondered, would Clara reclaim her place in the community? Could they overcome the obstacles life tossed their way together? The weight of uncertainty hung between them, yet hope flickered brightly in there. Shared laughter, a reminder that sometimes life's greatest transformations are born from the simplest acts of kindness. The day of the meeting arrived, bright and bustling in a way that felt electric. Jake felt a knot in his gut as he watched Clara prepare herself. She had dressed carefully, her usual work boots replaced by sturdy shoes that lent her an air of confidence. The way she brushed her hair back, revealing her determined expression, sent a surge of admiration through him. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with the tension they both felt. Clara turned to him, a shadow of doubt crossing her face. "I don't know if they'll listen," she said, biting her lip. It was as if she were standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the unknown depths. Jake stepped closer, his heart racing. "You're not doing this alone," he reassured her. The simple act of standing beside her brought a rush of warmth. He believed in her, and it was crucial she knew that. Together, they made their way into the town hall, the air thick with anticipation. Old wooden benches were filled with familiar faces, some nodding in acknowledgement, while others shot sharp glares her way. Whispers rippled through the crowd like a dissonant song. Jake's hand instinctively sought out Emma's. She stood beside him, raised on her tiptoes, trying to peek over the crowd. He could see she felt the tension too, her small face worried, yet hopeful. He squeezed her hand, sharing his strength. When Clara finally took the stage, the room fell into an uneasy silence. She stood a little taller than before, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. As she began to speak, words poured out, strong and unwavering. I came here today to fight for my farm, for my grandfather's legacy. But I also came to tell you I wish to be a part of this community, not just a figure of wealth. Her voice rang clear, echoing against the old walls. Jake felt his pulse quickening, the power in her words evident. She was more than just the money. She was a woman full of spirit and dreams. Yet, not everyone was convinced. A voice rose from the back. You've had it easy, Clara. You think money can fix everything? The resistance hung in the air, heavy and thick. Clara faltered for a moment, uncertainty creeping back in, but then she locked eyes with Jake, finding her anchor in his steady presence. He encouraged her with a nod, urging her to push through. With newfound determination, she replied, Money doesn't define who I am. It's about how I use it to help, to build something meaningful. Clara spoke from her heart, words lining up like soldiers marching forward. As she continued, Jake looked around, assessing the crowd. Faces softened, some squirmed, a few even nodded. Maybe they were realizing Clara was more than her inheritance. But doubt still flickered in his mind. What would it take for everyone to truly see her? More importantly, would this battle bring them closer or rip them apart? Just then, Clara spoke a line that sent ripples through the room. What makes us a community isn't our wealth, but our willingness to stand together in hard times. The applause that followed was hesitant but building, each clap a brick in the wall of acceptance they were trying to construct. Jake felt a rush of hope, but alongside it, a new fear settled in, a fear of the townsfolk's reactions as the meeting unfolded. As Clara stepped down from the podium, catching her breath and hoping she had made a difference, Jake realized this was only the beginning. They needed to navigate the widening gaps between their dreams and the town's perceptions. Would they unite, or would Clara feel the weight of judgment that came with wealth? The thoughts swirled, and as they shared encouraging smiles, a nagging question loomed. Was their connection strong enough to weather this storm, or would the distance tear them apart just as they began to build something beautiful? As applause faded, Clara stepped down, her heart racing. The warmth of support mingled with the chill of skepticism that still lingered in the air. Jake reached for her as she joined him, noting the mixture of exhilaration and exhaustion painted across her face. Did you feel that? She whispered, her blue eyes sparkling with a wild hope. I did, he replied, squeezing her hand. You were incredible. They're starting to see the real you. Clara smiled, but the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. I hope you're right. It's just, I can't help but wonder if it's enough. Just then, a voice interrupted them. Clara. It was Ray, a local farmer who had always been a bit distant from her. Can we talk? Jake felt a tightness in his chest as she nodded, stepping away from him. Ray led her toward the back of the hall, away from the crowd. Jake crossed his arms and watched, wishing he could hear what they were saying. Don't worry, Emma said, tugging on Jake's sleeve. She'll be okay. Yeah, but Jake trailed off, too anxious to finish. Emma's innocence provided little comfort. Clara and Ray's conversation was short, but from Jake's distinct vantage, he could see the crease of worry on Clara's face deepen. He shifted his weight, wondering what questions Ray was asking and how Clara was handling them. When she returned, her face was pale. What did he say? Jake asked, holding her gaze, desperate for reassurance. He wanted to know why I really came back, she said softly, eyes glimmering with unshed tears. He made me feel like I was just some outsider trying to buy my way in. She blinked hard, as if refusing to let the emotions spill. Jake's heart sank. He could feel the weight pressing down on her. Clara, you're more than your grandfather's money. You just showed everyone that, he said, stepping closer, forcing her to look at him. You fought for something bigger than yourself. That matters. But doubts lingered in Clara's eyes. Does it? I just wish they could see me, not the money. I want to build something real with this community. You will, Jake said firmly, hoping to instill some faith. He was surprised by how deeply he felt for her, how her struggles were starting to resonate with his own fears of being a single dad, trying to protect Emma and find his footing again. Clara let out a shaky breath, and for a moment, they only leaned into each other, drawing strength from the connection they had formed. But before they could settle into the brief peace, the moderator called for a second round of discussions. Looks like it's not over yet, Jake said, attempting to lighten the atmosphere. But even he could hear the hesitation in his own voice. Clara nodded, pulling herself up again. You're right. I'm not done yet. As they made their way back to their seats, Clara took a deep breath, her resolve visibly hardening. Jake felt proud of her, but also scared. What if this next part didn't go the way they were hoping? The next speaker stepped up, a familiar face from the town council. We've heard your concerns, Clara, he began, his tone measured but guarded. But many of us have lived here our entire lives. Trust can't be bought. As he spoke, Jake could sense the ripples of tension flood through the hall once more. Clara's determination was palpable, but so was the skepticism. Jake gripped Emma's hand tighter, feeling the weight of the moment. Would Clara stand tall against the waves of doubt, threatening to crash over her? Would the trust she yearned for be forever out of reach? The next moments felt crucial, as Clara prepared to respond with all the passion she had left. Would this lead to acceptance, or yet another round of fierce opposition? Jake held his breath, both excited and terrified, wondering what Clara would do next. Would this be the moment that defined her journey, or the one that fractured it forever? Clara took her place at the podium again, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked out at the crowd, at the faces she had once known, and even those of strangers who had come for the meeting. The eyes that had once been warm were now shadowed with disbelief. She swallowed hard, determined not to let her voice waver. Trust isn't just given, she began, her voice gaining strength. It's earned, and I'm willing to work for it. I'm here not just because of my inheritance, but because I believe in this community and in each one of you. There were murmurs in the audience, some supportive, others skeptical. Jake felt the air shift. He wanted so much for Clara to break through that skepticism, but he couldn't predict how this would play out. Ray has every right to question my intentions, Clara continued, locking eyes with the farmer who had challenged her. But I need you to see that I'm not trying to step in and take over. I want to contribute, to build something that lasts, a future we can all share. As she spoke, there was a quiet resolve growing within her. Clara could feel the heat of their glares, the fists of discontent ready to strike. But she also noticed a few heads nodding, a few eyes softening. Let us not forget, she said, leaning into her conviction, I grew up here. I played in these fields, I swam in this river. You all might see me as an outsider, but I see myself as a part of this tapestry. I want to weave my thread in with yours. The moderator shifted slightly, and Jake noticed several folks in the crowd leaning forward in their seats. Was it curiosity? Hope? He clutched Emma's hand tighter, their fingers entwined like vines, each one rooting the other in this moment. Let us come together, let us start a dialogue, Clara urged, her tone turning softer but still firm. What do you need? What do you want? I came to help, but I can't do that without knowing how I can best serve you. As if sensing the change, the tension in the hall relaxed just a fraction. Jake could see folks exchanging glances, a flicker of something resembling hope igniting among them. Clara kept speaking, pouring her heart into her words, and with every sentence, Jake saw the barriers come down little by little. However, just as she seemed to find her footing, a voice piped up from the back. And what makes you think we'll trust you? Just because you want to help doesn't mean we'll let you. It was a woman with a steely expression, arms crossed defiantly. Clara paused, but Jake saw her take a deep breath, her thoughts racing like a runaway horse. He sensed that this moment could easily shift again. Would she falter under the weight of such an accusation? Trust is built step by step, Clara replied, forcing herself to speak with confidence. It starts with listening and understanding. I'm here to be a part of discussions, to hear your concerns and ideas, and find solutions together. Not to dictate, but to forge a path forward as partners. The crowd shifted again, whispers cutting through the air. Clara had opened a door, but would they step through? Jake leaned forward, wishing desperately for Clara to break through, to win them over. As Clara continued, the words flowed out of her like a river breaking through a dam. Jake could feel her passion, her sincerity, but the woman at the back stared back, unyielding. This felt like a moment of transformation, yet that flicker of resistance still burned brightly. Clara glanced toward Jake, and in that fleeting second he saw a vulnerability that cut through him. Would she continue to rise against this resistance, or would it force her to retreat? The tension thickened once more, and Jake sat quietly, holding his breath as the crowd's reactions shifted and swayed like the branches of a tree in a storm. Would Clara's brave words inspire courage, or would they spiral into more doubt? The path ahead remained unclear, but one thing was sure: this moment could change everything. Clara took a deep breath, staring down the challenges ahead. In the brief hush, she realized that the power lay not only in her words but in her willingness to listen and fight for this community. Would they welcome her in, or would she be cast aside as just another outsider? The answer lingered tantalizingly in the air, waiting for her next move. Clara took a moment to steady herself, grounding her thoughts. She could feel a heartbeat in the silence. The crowd was with her, if only for a moment. She needed to anchor their attention, to break through that skepticism and revive their trust. "I know it's hard to believe in someone who hasn't been here," she said, her voice carrying the weight of her heart. "But the love I have for this place isn't just nostalgia. It's a commitment to build something good for us all." The woman with the steely expression relaxed her arms just a bit, an inkling of curiosity softening her glare. With the barest hint of encouragement, Clara pressed on, determined to keep that flicker alive. "Let us talk about the issues that matter most to you," Clara suggested, sensing the subtle shifts in the room. "What are the hurdles you face every day? What are the dreams you wish to realize?" Jake watched as a few hands slowly rose in the audience. An older man stood, his voice steady but warm. "We've lost a lot of support for our crops. We need more help than just your words, Clara." "I appreciate that," Clara nodded, feeling the thread of hope intertwine with a real concern. "What specific support would make a difference? Let us brainstorm together." As she invited more questions from the audience, people began to engage. A young mother spoke up about childcare. Someone else mentioned infrastructure issues. Clara took notes, nodding and responding to each voice, weaving a tapestry of understanding. With each new comment, the atmosphere crackled with a renewed sense of community. Jake couldn't help but smile. Her vulnerability had become her strength. She wasn't simply a distant figure with grand promises. She was Clara. Just Clara, their Clara. The woman with the steely glare leaned forward, her eyes no longer hard, but searching, as if Clara's earnestness had softened the edges of her skepticism. Then, just as the energy in the room began to swell with optimism, a rough voice came from the back, jarring them back into doubt. "This all sounds nice, but what happens when you leave again? What is your plan? We can't just hope for the best." Clara's heart sank. It was a valid question, a reopening of old wounds. She glanced at Jake, who nodded encouragingly, urging her on. This time, though, it was her resolve that emerged anew. "Our history is complex," Clara admitted, "but I promise I'm here to stay. If you'll lean into the conversation, we can create something that lasts longer than any single person. I don't want to lead. I want to walk alongside you all." The murmurs in the audience bubbled into a chorus of opinions, hopes, and fears. Clara listened, taking it all in, her heart swelling with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. Yes, she was still the outsider, but she was becoming more than that. With each shared thought, she was weaving herself into the very fabric of their lives. When the crowd began to quiet again, Jake felt the moment shift. People were thinking. He could see it in their expressions, the way they leaned in, the glimmers of hope cautiously flickering back to life. "Okay," Clara said, raising her hand slightly to capture their attention and slow the moment. "Let us take this one step at a time. Trust isn't built overnight, but we can start now." As she finished, Jake could have sworn he saw someone smile in the back, a tentative, wavering smile, but a smile nonetheless. It felt like a turning point, but doubt still lingered heavily beneath the surface. The realization struck Clara like a bolt of lightning, sharp and clear. Maybe just changing perception was not enough. She needed to show them she could deliver. To earn their trust, she would have to take action. But just as that thought blossomed, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Glancing down, her heart skipped a beat. It was a message from her attorney, one that spoke of the inheritance she had nearly forgotten. "Clara, we need to talk about your father's estate. There's something you must know." The warm energy of the crowd faded as her mind shifted, the weight of that text pressing down. Now that she had begun to forge connections, would her family's history threaten it all? Clara's heart raced. She had been preparing to move forward, but was she now facing a revelation that could change everything? Clara's thoughts swirled as she read the message again. The room around her turned into a blur. The crowd, now a sea of faces eager for connection, began to fade into the background. She could hear the distant hum of conversations, people still discussing their hopes and fears, but familiarity suddenly felt foreign. Jake, sensing her straying focus, stepped closer. "You okay?" he asked, concern etching itself into his features. I have to go," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The weight of the text bore down harder, urging her to flee. But she didn't want to abandon them, not now, when she had finally started to carve a space among them. A voice rang out in the room, pulling her back. "Clara, are you with us?" It was the older man again, his brow knitted with worry. "We need guidance, and we need to know you're here for the long haul." "Of course." As she paused, gathering herself, searching for words that wouldn't betray her growing turmoil. "I'm here. I am committed to this. But to move forward, I need to ensure I'm also grounded. I can't promise without knowing what's really holding me back." The uncertain atmosphere fluttered like a breeze through the room. Clara watched as the woman with the steely expression nodded, resuming her serious facade, but with a hint of intrigue glistening in her eyes. It made Clara realize how complicated this journey was. Yet, a sense of responsibility tugged at her heart. She could not walk out now. "I'm sorry, just give me a moment," Clara pleaded to the room, taking a step away, needing space to breathe and think. She glanced back at Jake, who gave her an encouraging smile, like a light cutting through the fog. Stepping to the side, she took a deep breath, fighting down the swirl of fear. What was it that awaited her on the other side of her father's legacy? The very thought of confronting that history sent chills down her spine. She was not simply Clara the outsider anymore, she was tethered, on the cusp of something greater. The message echoed in her head. "There's something you must know." What did that mean? Was there more than just an inheritance at stake? It felt like a ticking time bomb intertwined with her family's complexities. As Clara steadied herself, the time urgency surged. She knew she had a decision to make. Whatever her father's story held could affect more than just her. It could shake the foundation of trust she was trying so hard to build. She slipped back to the crowd, letting her shoulders drop, a newfound confidence starting to blossom as she faced the audience. "I need your help," she said, a fire igniting in her tone. "Understanding where I come from is just as vital as knowing where we are going. I won't shy away from my past. It's part of why I want to be here with you all." The murmurs began again, this time layered with curiosity and encouragement. Clara felt the energy pattern shift once more, and she leaned into it, fueling the conversation. But beneath it all, her heart raced. How could she balance this emerging sense of belonging with the upheaval that family secrets would unfold? As she opened her mouth to answer the mounting questions, a figure entered the room, cloaked in shadow, an unexpected visitor whose presence disrupted the air like a sudden storm. Clara's heart dropped. What could this mean? Could it be someone from her past, or was it a harbinger of what lay ahead? The figure stepped into the light, and Clara's breath caught in her throat. It was a man she recognized, but had tried to forget, a man who had been a ghost in her life for too long. Greg, her estranged uncle, stood before her, vulnerability draped over him like a heavy coat. His once piercing glare now seemed softened by years and hardship. The crowd quieted, all eyes drawn to him, as if he were a dark cloud looming overhead. "Clara," he said softly, his voice trembling slightly. "I need to talk to you. Now." A ripple of whispers spread through the group, confusion and concern radiating like static electricity. Jake moved closer to Clara, protectiveness etched on his face. "Do you want me to get rid of him?" "No," Clara found herself saying. The weight of their shared history, fraught with tension and unanswered questions, pulled her forward. She had seen too many family ties frayed and discarded, She needed to understand, if only for herself. As Clara approached her uncle, memories of weekends spent at his old farmhouse flooded back, summer evenings filled with laughter, the scent of freshly cut grass, and her mother's face brightening at the mention of family. But those memories were overshadowed by pain, the loss of the ties that had once held them together. "Why are you here?" she asked, her tone firm yet uncertain. "You left. You chose to walk away from everything." "I know," Greg answered, visibly pained. "I was wrong, Clara. I thought I was protecting you all from the truth. But it's time you knew." He shifted his weight, casting a glance at the crowd before leaning in closer. "Your father, he wasn't just a man who left. There are things about him, about our family, that could change everything for you." His words felt like a slap, cold and unsettling. "What do you mean?" Clara demanded, her heartbeat rising. "What could possibly change? He chose to leave, and so did you. I'm here because I can't stay silent anymore. There's a legacy, Clara. Something linked to your father that he swallowed hard, that you might be a part of." The room, once buzzing with conversations, now held a tense silence. Clara's mind raced. Was she prepared for what lay ahead? Would she finally confront the truth that had shaped her life? "Why should I trust you?" Clara challenged, inching closer as the intensity wrapped around them both. "You've been absent. You turned your back on us." "I did," he admitted, tears glistening in his eyes. "I'm sorry, but I've spent every day regretting it. The family's troubles are my troubles too. Your father left secrets, Clara, and they belong to you now." For a moment, Clara felt the ground beneath her quaking. The connections she thought were fragile now seemed heavy with significance. Each heartache, each bond broken, now begged her to piece together the puzzle of her life. Her past loomed like a storm cloud, but behind it, she sensed the shimmer of sunlight waiting to break through. "Clara," Jake's voice pulled her back, warm and steady. "You don't have to do this alone. Whatever it is, I'll be here." His assurance wrapped around her, grounding her amidst turmoil. With renewed determination, Clara faced Greg again. "Okay," she said, her voice stronger now. "Let us talk. But I need to know everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly." As her uncle started to speak, revelations began to unfold, tightening the knot of tension ever more in her chest. What if the secrets he revealed held the key to not just her identity, but to something greater, a chance to redefine her story? The truth was finally on the horizon, but the question remained. Would it bring clarity or chaos? Greg inhaled deeply, the air heavy with anticipation. "It goes back further than you think," he began, his voice trembling but steady. "Your father didn't just leave because he wanted to. He was forced to protect someone." Clara's brow furrowed, confusion mingling with urgency. "Protect what? Who?" "Us," Greg replied softly, his eyes searching hers for understanding. "Our family isn't just your regular family. There are ties deeper than blood, Clara. Hidden connections to a past that could change everything you believe." The gathered crowd was still, anxiety palpable as eyes flitted between Clara and Greg, awaiting an answer that would bridge the chasm of lost years. Jake stood close, his presence a reminder that Clara wasn't alone in this surreal confrontation. "Your father was involved in some dangerous things," Greg continued. "Things that came with consequences. He made choices to keep you safe, even if that meant abandoning you. But there's more than just him. There's a legacy that you're tied to." Clara shook her head, desperately wishing to dismiss his words as nonsense, but unable to shake the fear that clawed at her insides. "A legacy? What could that possibly be?" Greg stepped closer, lowering his voice as though the crowd's presence made the truth feel too loud. "He was part of something bigger, a group that safeguarded secrets about our lineage. Secrets that are dangerous if they fall into the wrong hands." "Are you saying we're like royalty or something?" Clara scoffed, disbelief rolling off her tongue. It felt absurd amidst the dreariness of her own existence. "Not royalty, but perhaps more than just ordinary. You have a connection to a family that stretches back generations. There may be assets, properties even, tied to your name," Greg explained, urgency slipping into his tone. "Your father couldn't take you with him because he believed it would make you a target." Clara's heart raced, and her mind flooded with images. What if she really was tied to something bigger? But alongside the thrill came a sense of dread, worry clutching her spine. "You expect me to believe this? That I'm somehow special? I wouldn't be here if it wasn't true. Clara, Greg said, earnestness spilling from his words. I can prove it. There are folks who want this hidden information. They will stop at nothing to secure it. Your father was trying to shield you. A cold chill swept through Clara. The weight of his words settled into her bones. What if I don't want any part of this? She whispered, vulnerable and raw. Maybe you can't choose that anymore, Jake said, breaking his silence, his grip on her shoulder firm and protective. But we can figure this out together, Clara. You won't face anything alone. In that moment, something shifted. Clara felt a spark of rebellion igniting inside her. The desire for answers that had been sleeping inside her for so long was now a roaring hunger. What do I need to do? She found herself asking, her voice steady and resolute. Greg's expression softened. We need to find the information your father left behind. We start with the old farmhouse. I didn't just come back for nothing. I want to help you uncover what's yours. Clara felt a jolt of nerves mixed with adrenaline. The idea of uncovering a past that was bigger than just her was terrifying yet thrilling. But as she stood, surrounded by her confused friends and worried family, she realized she was ready to take the leap. What happens if we uncover something we can't handle? She asked, fear threading through her determination. Well, Greg said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment, then we face it together. Whatever it is. Ready? The uncertainty loomed as they prepared to embark on a journey that would unravel everything she thought she knew. As Clara nodded, a question loomed large in her mind. What truths were waiting in that house? And would they bring healing or destruction? The drive to the farmhouse felt surreal. Each bump in the road echoed Clara's racing heart. She stared out the window, watching familiar scenery morph into something foreign. Memories of childhood spent in this area surfaced, unbidden school days, bike rides, even that summer spent at the lake. But now, it was all intertwined with something bigger. A legacy, a promise, a weighty secret. Jake sat beside her, his presence a steadying force. You okay? He asked, his voice warm and reassuring. Clara nodded but felt the tension in her chest. Just trying to wrap my mind around all of this. She glanced at him, seeking comfort in his steady gaze. What if my whole life has been a lie? Maybe it's just a part of it, he said, his tone thoughtful. Maybe this is the beginning of something real. Clara offered a faint smile, grateful for his support. The rest of their friends trailed behind in another vehicle, their eager chatter contrasting sharply with Clara's quiet turmoil. She knew they were in the dark about what lay ahead, and the thought of revealing everything made her stomach twist. They finally arrived at the farmhouse. Its weathered wood and peeling paint stood as a testament to years gone by. Clara stepped out, balancing her curiosity with an overwhelming need for answers. The air was crisp, blending with the scent of earth and distant pine. Let us go, Greg said, his voice firm, breaking through the stillness. As they approached the door, Clara hesitated. Was she ready to uncover what her father had left behind? The hint of danger danced in her mind, the knowledge that someone might want the secrets buried here. But she also felt the weight of possibility, a glimmer of what her life could be if she embraced it. Greg pushed the door open, and it creaked, unveiling a dim interior covered in shadows and the dust of years. Sunlight streamed through cracked windows, creating patterns on the floor that seemed to beckon them forward. Do you feel that? Clara asked, a shiver running down her spine. It's like the house is alive, holding its breath. Jake stepped closer and squeezed her hand. It's ready for you, just like you are. They entered the living room, cluttered with old furniture covered in sheets. Clara's heart raced as Greg began to search through the remnants left behind. A few minutes in, he pulled out an old trunk, its leather edges frayed but seemingly strong. Help me with this, he urged, his voice edged with excitement. Together, they pried it open, revealing stacks of faded letters and documents. Clara felt her pulse quicken as Greg rummaged through, pulling out a weathered photo. He handed it to her, eyes sparkling with anticipation. Look, he whispered. Clara took the picture gently and gasped. There was her father, young and radiant, standing with a woman Clara had never seen before. The woman's face seemed to radiate warmth, her smile both welcoming and haunting. For an instant, Clara felt a connection, something deeper than mere blood. What does this mean? Clara asked, feeling a mix of joy and pain at the sight of her father's past. Greg scrutinized the photo. I think we're about to find out. Your father's story is intertwined with hers, and perhaps with yours too. Just then, the air shifted, thick with tension. Clara heard footsteps outside the house, heavy and deliberate. A flicker of dread coursed through her. Who was out there? Were they friend or foe? Panic surged inside her, urging her to close the trunk and hide the past once more. But a defiant fire burned in her heart. She couldn't run, it was time to face whatever came next. Jake stood protectively beside her, ready to confront anything. We stick together, no matter what, he declared, grounding her spiraling thoughts. Clara took a deep breath, eyes locking with Greg's. Let them come. I'm ready. But the question lingered. What if the truths hiding in that trunk led to more than just secrets? What if they unleashed chaos? As Clara prepared for the unknown, the sound of footsteps grew louder, echoing the battle inside her. Was she ready to confront her past? Clara's heart raced as she gripped the edge of the trunk, shadows swirling in her mind. Jake stood resolute at her side, eyes steady and strong. The footsteps outside were a dark thunder, threatening to invade their moment of discovery. Stay close, Jake murmured, his protective instinct wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Clara nodded, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. This was it, the moment that could define everything. Let us see what else we've got, Greg urged, a hint of urgency coloring his tone as he circled the trunk, digging through the letters. Clara felt the weight of history pressing against her. Each piece, each memory might hold the key to unlocking the life she was meant to lead. With shadowed resolve, Greg pulled out another letter, curling worn edges in his hands. This looks like a message from your father, he said, voice shaking slightly as he skimming through the text. He addressed it to you. Clara leaned in, breath caught in her throat, when a louder crash echoed outside. The footsteps were joined by shouts, and Clara could feel the fear prickling at her skin. We can't lose this moment, Clara exclaimed, determined. What does it say? Greg turned the letter toward her, anxiety mingling with excitement. He spoke of secrets, about the legacy that belonged to you and danger that comes with it. Suddenly, the door swung open, creaking on its rusty hinges as two figures stepped inside, faces twisted with hostility. Clara recognized them, a couple of local men who had always been skeptical of her. What is going on here? One of them barked, fist clenching. Clara's heart sank, the moment of truth colliding with fear. We're just looking for answers about the farm, Greg responded, stepping forward. You don't understand what Clara has inherited. The intruders exchanged glances, skepticism hardening their features. Inheritances can't just be handed out after a legacy like this, the other man sneered. You think you can prance in here and take what's ours? No, Clara shouted, her voice echoing with unexpected bravery. This is about my family, about understanding our past and working together for a future. A flicker of disbelief crossed their faces, confusion crackling in the air as Clara's gut clenched with her proclamation. You think this is about greed? I want to ensure this land thrives for everyone, our families. The men hesitated. Clara's honest declaration hung between them. Would they see her courage or simply hardness? Then Greg stepped in, positioning himself protectively beside Clara. It's true, he nodded firmly. This isn't about wealth. Clara wants to help this community lift itself up by understanding where they came from. Jake flexed his muscles, both metaphorically and physically, preparing for confrontation, but Clara whispered, wait. Drawing another breath, she fixed her eyes on the man who had spoken harshly. You've always doubted me, but I'm here, willing to listen, willing to learn. This is our chance to work together. The atmosphere shifted slightly, disbelief mourning the hardened expressions. But then Clara saw something in their eyes, a glimmer of understanding peeking through the fog of stubbornness. She took another step forward, desperation fueling her heart. Tell me your fears, she insisted, voice steadier now. What do you need? Let us discuss it, not with fists, but with open hearts. Their hardened heart, silent prayers mingling, the weight of possibility heavy upon her. Jake grabbed her hand, silently promising strength while shifting his stance, grounding her. Let us give this a chance. Show us, Clara. The crackles of uncertainty in the air began to dissipate as Clara engaged the men with her resolute belief. Slowly, the tensions tangling their voices began to unfurl. Moments felt like drafts of time incensed by emotion, fueled by the urgency of communication. Clara didn't falter, sharing the dreams and desires she envisioned, the hopes that weren't just hers, but a shared future. As the men listened, Clara's heart began to transform the heat of battle into the warmth of solidarity. Each word wove an unbreakable bond across the room, like vines climbing higher and higher toward the light. Finally, after what felt like hours, one of the men nodded slowly. "All right, Clara, let us see what you've got. But know this trust is a two-way street." Relief flooded Clara as she extended her hand toward him. "Deal? Together we can build something amazing." A look of cautious hope settled within the hall. Clara could feel the weight of her father's secrets lifting ever so slightly. Had that leap of faith delivered them all closer to the truth? Could they turn this moment into a turning tide for her family and the town? Stepping back, she turned to Jake, who wore an encouraging smile, pride radiating from him like sunlight cutting through the clouds. "You did it, Clara." But behind that joy was the uncertainty of her family's revelations still lurking. Greg began gathering the papers while Clara focused on the men before her. "I'll continue to meet, listen, and find the best solutions for this team," Clara said firmly. "Together, we can protect what matters." Her conviction filled the air, a holy ripple of connection washing over them all. As they turned to leave the farmhouse, Clara looked back one last time, a smile of determination stretching across her face. Today wasn't just about facing darkness, it had birthed hope. But in the back of her mind, Clara knew there was still more to confront. The shadows of her lineage loomed large, secrets ready to pull at the strands of her newfound belief. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was still ahead. As they stepped back into the sunlight, a promise unfurled. Their journey was still just beginning. She was ready for the challenges that awaited, the mysteries of a legacy she'd just begun to understand. With Jake beside her and the community now slowly coming together, Clara was determined to shape the future, fighting for herself, her father, and the world she longed to reclaim. This was her moment, and she would embrace it. All Clara could feel now was the electric pull of transformation. And as they walked away, all of them together, it felt like the dawn of something beautiful, a future sewn together with open hearts and courageous souls. Time to unleash that hope. Now is the moment for you too. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Leave your thoughts in the comments, because I want to hear your reactions and feelings about this ending. And you need to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of your support through these actions.